with all my work at Ampex, I became very familiar with what was okay with a certain technology and what wasn't okay. You could get the frequency response of the signal practically perfect. You could get the wow and flutter practically eliminated. The frequency response signal to noise ratio was the problem. You couldn't get rid of the hiss.
Hi, today I'm going to tell you about Ray Dolby and kind of his life and his contributions to the audio world. Ray Dolby was born in Portland, Oregon in 1933, but later on, as a child, he did move to San Francisco, and that's mostly where he grew up. Ever since he was a kid, he was really into instruments and audio and stuff like that. He was a big fan of photography and other stuff to do with like film. As he was going to college to get his bachelor's in electrical engineering, he worked at Ampex and was actually a lead developer on the electronic side of some of the first videotape recorders. After he got his bachelor's in electrical engineering, he moved to England and got his PhD in physics from Cambridge College. After that, he moved around to India. He worked for the UN as a technical consultant. As he was there, he was recording stuff like instruments. With the tapes he was using, he heard this like hiss, and that just kind of irritated him a lot. Once he heard that, he kind of wanted to develop a way to just get rid of it entirely. Like less than a year later, he moved back to England and he established Dolby Laboratories. It was pretty small at the beginning, only had around 4 employees. In that same year that that company was established, he developed Dolby A to help reduce that background noise in the tape. The way that was done is the audio in the tape was split into 4 bands, and then it was just kind of adjusted in a way to boost the low end and the high end and reduce that small little area of the band that had the hiss. This wasn't perfect by any means, but comparative to normal, it was a huge improvement. And once Dolby A was developed, like all the recording studios really got into this technology very quickly. It kind of became an industry standard. So 3 years later, after developing Dolby A, they developed Dolby B. Dolby B was a little bit different in that it started during the recording instead of just afterwards. So this Dolby B would take the low frequencies and the high frequencies, and they pre-boosted them during the recording, and then after the recording they were brought back down. So that means the hiss was kind of minimized before the recording even happened, and then afterwards the improvement was even better than Dolby A. So around when Dolby B came out is when cassette players in cars really started to take off as well and being popularized. So that really helped popularize Dolby A and B as kind of a standard in cassettes. So I do have a cassette right here. This is Dookie by Green Day. As you can see, here's the tiny little Dolby logo right here. This was published by Reprise. And it says HX Pro BNR, so that just means it was developed with Dolby B audio. In 1971, a few years after that, movies started to use Dolby. The first movie to use Dolby noise reduction was The Clockwork Orange in 1971. That really helped popularize movies using Dolby. The Clockwork Orange using Dolby noise reduction inspired the creation of Dolby Stereo. Now, stereo audio in movies at this time did exist. It was not unheard of or anything like that, but it did use magnetic strips, and a lot of movie theaters at the time didn't have the proper equipment to actually play that, so a lot of them just used the mono audio on the tapes, which was optical, that just came with the tape, just because that's just what they had. It was a lot easier. But Dolby Stereo was optical, so it being optical allowed them to keep it with the tape, and then the movie theaters already had the systems to play that in their speakers. Now, this Dolby Stereo was 4 speakers, so that's 2 in the front and then 2 in the back. Now, these 4 speakers was just one channel and right channel and left channel, but using matrix decoding, you could kind of hack away to make a kind of surround sound. Now, this is only 4-channel surround sound, but it was still like something that they just didn't have before that Dolby Stereo allowed them to do. The first movie to do this was Star Wars in 1977. Star Wars did this 4-channel surround sound so good that it inspired them to create a specific surround sound thing to do it, and that was Dolby Digital Surround Sound. That came out in 1982. That was 6 channels, so that had your center channel, your left channel, your right channel, your left surround channel, and then your right surround channel, and then an LFE, which is low frequency effect. That was kind of like the subwoofer type. This was a super efficient way to store this data, because it's 6 whole channels, right? But it was compressed because it was digital, but it was also encoded onto the 35 millimeter film. So a little bit after that, in 1989, he did win an Oscar for his contribution to audio in cinema. A little bit later, they developed the surround sound system for in-home. Now, they did have the Dolby Stereo, like 4-speaker type surround sound in VHS tapes a little bit earlier than that, but they did come out with the digital surround. This was just 5.1 surround sound, but it was very compact and great way to play it on like DVDs and whatnot. I do have a DVD right here. This is a nature documentary DVD. You can see right here the Dolby Digital Audio logo right there. So after the kind of at-home audio, in 2009, he did retire to focus on philanthropy and to just kind of live his life away from the company. He did donate a lot of money to stem cell and brain research, but unfortunately 4 years later in 2013, he passed away from Alzheimer's and acute leukemia. Ray Dolby was a huge contributor to especially analog audio, in my opinion, just from the very start, like getting rid of that hiss from like the magnetic tapes and the cassette tapes. I do have one final example, Blu-ray. This is a Mission Impossible Blu-ray, and you can see one last Dolby Digital logo right there. That was Ray Dolby. He was an inventor and an audio enthusiast. Yeah, thank you very much.
There seemed to be something very fundamental about the remaining hiss on tapes, because people just would not want to listen to a cassette tape that had a lot of hiss on it. I saw that as being something that had to be cured somehow. I kept churning this over and over in my mind, and after several months, I finally figured out a way of jumping around this noise problem. So I just had to charge ahead on blind faith, and it worked out. My noise reduction system I demonstrated, and Decca was very pleased with it, and the other recording studios also. And so I was on my way to having a viable company.